Behold, the divine light guides us all.
Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai.
Psalm 145. I will extol thee, my God, O King, and I will bless thy name forever and ever. Every day will I bless thee, and I will praise thy name forever and ever. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable. One generation shall praise thy works to another, and shall declare thy mighty acts. I will speak of the glorious honor of thy majesty, and of thy wondrous works. And men shall speak of the might of thy terrible acts, and I will declare thy greatness. They shall abundantly utter the memory of thy great goodness, and shall sing of thy righteousness. The Lord is gracious and full of compassion, slow to anger, and of great mercy. The Lord is good to all, and his tender mercies are over all his works. All thy works shall praise thee, O Lord, and thy saints shall bless thee. They shall speak of the glory of thy kingdom, and talk of thy power, to make known to the sons of men his mighty acts, and the glorious majesty of his kingdom. Thy kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and thy dominion endureth throughout all generations. The Lord upholdeth all that fall, and raiseth up all those that be bowed down. The eyes of all wait upon thee, and thou givest them their meat in due season. Thou openest thine hand, and satisfiest the desire of every living thing. The Lord is righteous in all his ways, and holy in all his works. The Lord is nigh unto all them that call upon him, to all that call upon him in truth. He will fulfill the desire of them that fear him. He also will hear their cry, and will save them. The Lord preserveth all them that love him, but all the wicked will he destroy. My mouth shall speak the praise of the Lord, and let all flesh bless his holy name forever
Show my
and ever.
love for thee.
Abanawa, Shabashamayim, Kodash, Haya Shamka, Yahweh Malakwaka, Taba'a Ratizaka, Haya Aisha Ba'aratza, Kawa Haya Bashamayim, Nathananawa, Lakam, Kal Yawam, Wasalaklanawa, Kawabwat Nawa, Kasalak Nawa, Kawabwati Nawa, Wala'a, Tabaya Anawa, Banasayawan, Abal, Haushai Nawa, Mayan, Rai Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwath, Waha Allah, Wahatha Ba'arath, La Iwalamium, Aman.
Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. And peace and blessing and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and their sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashem Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers and listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Shai. All right, and what I want to get into today, dealing with America, all right, will be embarrassed in World War III. Okay, and what we have to understand, is the Lord, used America as the hammer of the earth. Now the Lord is getting ready to break that hammer. Okay, and what we have to understand, as Yahweh Shah returns, America is going to be getting their work. All right, Yahweh Shah is coming to clear the board of all these heathens. Okay, and put America completely in the dirt. Okay, by the time Yahweh Shah comes back during this Third World War, okay, America gonna be on his back. Okay, because the Lord has raised up the spirit of these heathens, mainly, beginning with Russia. Lord will, I could do a separate lesson on how Russia, right, is raised up just for, okay, the destruction of Babylon. Okay, as we go into prophecy, man. Well, we have to understand, America has been a mighty, military in the earth, as prophecy says it would. You see, but that's when it was on the way up. That's when it was being used, all right, to be a hammer, okay, of the earth, to break these nations into submission, okay, and also modify these nations into their liking, okay. But now we're coming to the time where their hammer is going to be broken, and the Lord is going to use these other nations to do it. You see, and it's going to go bad for America according to prophecy, man. Which, when you go here, let's get this, all right, because America has become the logo of pride in the earth. When you think of pride, all right, the first thing you think of is America. From his government to his people. So when you go to Proverbs 16:18, said pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before it fall. Okay, so pride goes before destruction. All right, so the Lord has allowed, America, aka Babylon, the great, spiritual Egypt. He's allowed this place to become proud. And why has America become so proud? Because it's been mighty. It's been mighty economically. You got to think about it. This devil, when he got the gold standard, he was just able to create wealth out of thin air. The American government is just able to print wealth out of thin air. They're able to print the world reserve currency out of thin air. Okay, because wealth, is usually made from merchandise. Okay, production and labor. When this man was able to make wealth out of nothing, okay, which allowed him unlimited funds for this mighty military and mighty military operations. So this devil, has become extremely proud because he sees, how he's able to dominate in the planet Earth, and he has all the resources, has the unlimited resources to do so. Okay, but it says a haughty spirit before a fall. So the devil has been allowed to get so proud because the Lord had a great fall in mind for the devil. Okay, and Yahweh Shai, he's going to complete that fall. Okay, when Yahweh Shai returns, okay, he's going to finalize the fall of America, man. Okay, and the rest of these heathens. But the focal point was always America, man. Even when you go to Jeremiah 49, why is this man proud? Okay, why this man, all right, moves the way that he moves? Okay, because when you go to Jeremiah 49:16, it says, "As for your terror, the pride and arrogance of your heart have deceived you." Okay, because he's been able to terrorize the planet Earth unchecked. Because he's been unchecked for decades, man. Yeah, especially since post World War II. All right, the devil has been able to move around the earth unchecked, doing what he wanted to do. You see? So now we're in the time where the Lord is raising up a resistance against this devil. And eventually their resistance is going to begin the process of taking this devil down. Okay? These nations finna take America down through there. Okay? Headed by Russia. It says, "Oh, you who live in the clefts of the rock, who hold and occupy the height of the hill, though you make your nest as high as the eagles, okay, I will bring you down from there, said the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Shai. Edom will become an object of horror, everyone who goes by it will be astonished and shall hiss scornfully at all its plagues and disasters. Okay, and that's going to be America turned into a lake of fire. The Lord is going to publish that throughout the earth. America becoming a lake of fire. Okay, an object of horror. America is going to be an example of rebellion. What happens to rebellion? You see, so it's going to be an embarrassing fall. America ain't going to go out, okay, in any type of honor. America's legacy is going to be, a wicked empire that became powerful, but went out in a very embarrassing, dishonorable way. It's going to be an empire that's known for having the same judgment as who? Sodom and Gomorrah says, as it was in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, all right, with their neighboring cities, said the Lord, no man will live there, no man will dwell in it. Okay, so America is going to be a memorial of what happens to wickedness, what happens to a nation in rebellion, okay, an empire in rebellion. You see, America is going to be that example. I want to see what it says in the NLT here. And so you get Isaiah 49:16 in the NLT. Yep, this is the one I wanted to. This Jeremiah 49:16 in the NLT. It says, "You have been deceived by the fear you inspire in others and by your own pride." So one of the sources, okay, of the devil's pride is the fear that he's been able to inspire in others. Okay, because there was a time, okay, when America could just speak and nations will get in line. He could just speak a thing, he could just make an announcement, and these nations would change, their policies, their stance. Okay, they will kiss the ring. You see, but now their king, all right, has been able to, the king, all right, King America, has been having to get off their throne a lot lately because their word is not feared like it once was. Okay, amongst some of these nations, now you still have nations that, dare to buck up. Okay, but you have a conglomerate being formed under Russia that's a real resistance to these devils, man. Okay, with these Russians are Edomites too, or they're Edomites being used, all right, to topple, okay, the kingdom of Babylon. Okay, and in this same instant, Yahushua is going to topple them. Okay, but going back to Jeremiah 49:16, says, "You have been deceived by the fear you inspire in others and by your own pride. You live in a rock fortress." Okay, because America, when you look at it, the way America is set up, with those big oceans on both sides, then their navy protecting their both coasts. America's like a fortress. That's why invading America is suicide. And that's why them nations are going to send missiles to the land of America. Okay, and the American troops that spread abroad, they're going to get obliterated. Okay, by these militaries, man. You see, it says, "And control the mountain heights." America's used to having, air superiority. When they go to combat, when they go to war. But even if you make your nest among the peaks with the eagles, I will bring you crashing down, said the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai. This man has weaponry even in space. Okay, so even though the devil, has been able to weaponize the atmosphere, he's still coming down. No other heathen, was able to weaponize the atmosphere. This devil has. Okay, but still in all, he's going to come down. That's going to show the power of the Lord, to raise up, okay, Esau to this point and then bring this devil down. That's all going to be a showcase of power by Yahweh, by Shema Shai. You see, because the Lord is about showing his power in this time. The Lord is about showing that he is in this time. And America is going to be that great example. All right, America is not only going to lose this Third World War, because all the nations are going to lose, because Yahweh Shai is going to win this Third World War. Okay? But America is going to be embarrassed. You see, according to prophecy, America finna get straight embarrassed in this war, man. So let's go. Matter of fact, I got a quick little video I want to play. Play a few minutes of this video and then get back to some prophecy. Okay. So let's go from there. All right. I like to listen to these older guys that were once a part, of Esau's military, which this guy here, he's pretty good. We like to listen to Larry Johnson, Colonel McGregor. This my guy, former CIA analyst, Ray McGovern. And they've seen some things. They've seen America climb, and they're seeing the collapse firsthand. Okay, which aligns with prophecy. Okay, because it ain't their word we're taking for it. It's prophecy. Okay, we believe the prophecy. They're just complementing or adding to the prophecy in which we already believe. Okay? Even if there wasn't any signs of Babylon collapsing, the fact that the Bible says it, that's enough, because the Lord can snap his finger and collapse this bitch. Okay? He don't need to go down the timeline of geopolitics. Okay? The Lord, all right, can shift this thing up, okay, in an instant. So let's play this, a little bit of this, and then we'll get back to some prophecy.
The irreversible collapse of American empire has begun. What happens when a global empire finally breaks? I'm Ray McGovern, 27 years inside the CIA. I briefed presidents during America's peak power. I watched us become the world's dominant force. I analyzed threats from every corner of the globe. And now I'm watching the American empire collapse in real time. You think this is just another cycle, another rough patch we'll overcome like we always have? Economic recession, military setbacks, political turmoil. We've survived it all before, but this time is different because this isn't a temporary crisis. This is irreversible imperial decline, and the accelerating factors are beyond our control. Let me show you why the empire that dominated the world for 7 decades is entering its final phase, and why everything you've been told about American resilience is about to be proven catastrophically wrong. When I joined the CIA in 1963, America stood astride the world like a colossus. We produced 40% of global GDP. Our military was unchallenged. Our dollar was backed by gold and accepted everywhere. Our diplomats shaped international law. We weren't just powerful, we were inevitable.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
That inevitability died in the mountains of Afghanistan and the streets of Iraq. But the death certificate wasn't signed until February 24, 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, and we realized our sanctions were powerless to stop it. Because empires don't collapse from external invasion. They collapse from internal contradictions that render them incapable of responding to challenges effectively.
Yeah, and what's happening, is American sanctions aren't as effective as they used to be. So now they're having, like I said earlier, the king is having to get off his throne a lot. Okay? When the king has to get off the throne and come address, all these different situations, he gets spread too thin. Okay, so the sanctions alone are not making these nations submit anymore. There was a time, when sanctions and the threat of war kept these nations in line. But now those sanctions and that threat of war are not keeping these nations in line. You have some that are still bow down, but then you have, all right, a host that is not. Okay, and that host that's not, all right, is forming an alliance to bring this bitch down. You see, so those sanctions don't have the power that they used to. Are they effective? Yes. The American dollar, still a weapon of America's, economic system, this global economic system, which is based on, American currency and American banking systems to move, big money around, to move, resources and make big transactions. Okay. But as these nations have begun to use workarounds, they begun to ignore, all right, the commands, the decrees that come out of Washington, man. Okay. And now the king has to get off his throne and actually come deal with these different rebellions, and it's becoming too much. Okay. As the earth is rebelling at the same time against American hegemony. All right. So let's play this some more.
And America's contradictions have reached the breaking point. The first contradiction is military overstretch that makes effective action impossible. We maintain 800 military bases in 80 countries while our infrastructure crumbles at home. We spend more on defense than the next 10 countries combined while losing every major conflict of the 21st century. Iraq was supposed to be a quick victory that established American dominance for generations. Instead, it cost us $3 trillion, killed hundreds of thousands of people, and created an Iranian client state on our watch. Afghanistan was supposed to demonstrate that American power could reshape ancient societies. Instead, we spent 20 years and $2 trillion building a government that collapsed in 72 hours when we finally left. Libya was supposed to show that humanitarian intervention could spread democracy efficiently. Instead, we turned Africa's most developed country into a failed state that exports terrorism and refugees across the Mediterranean. Syria was supposed to prove that regime change could work with lighter footprints. Instead, we created a proxy war that strengthened Russia, Iran, and China while accomplishing none of our objectives. Every military intervention has failed. Every nation.
So America has been working against itself for a long time, but they've been able to parade themselves as victorious, okay, dominant. But America power has been waning for a while. Okay, now it's just reached a point to where it's extremely obvious. Okay, it's extremely obvious of what's next, and that's the collapse of empire. Okay, thus said the Lord. With all the moves America that's been making, Iraq, Afghanistan. Okay, of course they're able to, bomb these nations and deploy troops and set up embassies and steal resources. Okay, but what it was doing, it was causing, all right, certain alliances to be made. Okay, it was breeding, okay, a resistance that will eventually take this place down. You see?
Nation building project has collapsed. Every attempt to reshape the world through force has backfired spectacularly. Yet we keep making the same mistakes because admitting failure would mean admitting that American military power has fundamental limitations. The second contradiction is economic decline disguised as financial manipulation. Our GDP numbers look impressive until you realize they're inflated by financial services that produce nothing real. Wall Street generates profits by moving money around while our industrial base moves to China. We used to make things the world needed. Now we make financial products the world is learning to avoid. China graduates more engineers annually than we have in our entire workforce. They produce more steel than the rest of the world combined. They manufacture goods that American consumers can't survive without. Meanwhile, we produce debt, lawyers, and marketing campaigns. The Ukraine war exposed this reality brutally. Ukraine needed artillery shells to fight Russia. We couldn't produce them fast enough because we'd outsourced ammunition manufacturing to save costs. Russia, supposedly crippled by sanctions, is outproducing the entire NATO alliance in military hardware, using their domestic industrial base that we mocked as outdated. They're making bullets. We're making quarterly earnings reports. Guess which one wins wars? The third contradiction is diplomatic isolation masquerading as leadership. We claim to lead the international community, while that community increasingly ignores our demands and builds alternatives to American-dominated institutions. The BRICS alliance now includes more people than NATO and the G7 combined. The Belt and Road Initiative connects Asia, Africa, and Europe without American involvement. Digital currencies threaten dollar dominance. Alternative payment systems bypass SWIFT sanctions. Most telling, when we demanded that the world isolate Russia completely, 85% of global population refused to comply. India, China, Brazil, South Africa, Indonesia, Mexico, and dozens of other major countries continued trading with Russia despite American pressure. They're buying.
And it shows you that the Lord is using Russia as the Lord. You know, like I say, Lord will tap in. You know, they're dealing with Russia specifically, but it's the Lord. Russia is able to produce and manufacture more military hardware and munitions than the whole NATO combined, because the Lord is going to use Russia for a mighty work. He's not with Russia, but Russia is just another throwaway, like America has been a throwaway. Okay? And it's all to fulfill the purpose of Yahweh Bashim al-Shah. Okay? It's all according to prophecy, man. Okay? All these different economic blocks, all right? The BRICS and Shanghai Coalition. Okay, all these different nations, as they make economic alliances, they're making military alliances too. And it's all to come against the West and this old system. Okay, and the elites are done with the old system. You see? But you have some elites that want to preserve, you know, portions of America for the New World Order. And, you know, and also they finna fight, man. Okay? They gonna fight. It's gonna be an all-out fight. You know, they agree, and they economies are all tied together, because all these economies are tied together. All right, because all these nations need each other. Okay, but what we're seeing is less dependence on America. All right, and America's money system, the American dollar. All right, the American banking system. Okay, so now you have these conglomerates formed outside of the dollar. And those same conglomerates gonna go to war with Babylon, man. Okay, these same nations, man. You see, so yeah, just want to play a little bit of that. All right, you can I think the channel is Intel Watch. You know, I need to subscribe myself. All right, but the channel is Intel Watch, and this video is America's imperial collapse is unstoppable. Okay, so let's go back to prophecy, man. You know, because we tie everything back to what's written in the scriptures. You know, because the devil's, you know, geopolitics and treachery and staged events be all over the place, where we keep everything in check. All right, by sticking to the prophecy, man. Okay, so let's go here. When you go into Jeremiah, all right, 50. Okay, and go Jeremiah 50 and 21. All right, and we read prophecy, we have to understand this is the Lord's commandments. You know, from anything from a scoffer to a nation being raised up to go to war with America, well, it's all written in prophecy, which means somebody has to fulfill their role. Okay, this ain't just random speaking. When we go into the Bible and go into prophecy, this is just not random speaking. The scriptures say, with a word of a king, there is power. Okay, So the Most High, who is the source of all power, okay, in his word, there's power. So when we read these words, these are the words of Yahweh Bashim Al Shah. When we read prophecy, this is his future will. These are commands and decrees being made in future tense when we read the prophecy, man, until they become what? The present. You see, until the Lord's will become the present. So when you go into Jeremiah 50:21, it's an AMP. It said, go against Babylon, the land of Marathon, all right, which is what? Double rebellion. Okay, this is a double rebellion, man. You see, America has been a double rebellion against Yahweh Bashim Al Shah. This has been the home base of wickedness in the earth. The standard of wickedness was established here in America. Okay, and the least was allowed to do this because America was like a blank canvas. You know, they slaughtered, you know, the indigenous tribes that was over here, the northern tribes. Okay, mainly Gad and Reuben, you know. But all the tribes through North, Central, and South America, these devils have dominated. But America, mainly Gad and Reuben, you know, Issachar, because a lot of Southwest, okay, was known as the Southwest of America. That was once a part of Mexico, man. You know, which is double, you know, he went to war, okay, with Issachar in the 1800s to get, you know, Texas and New Mexico and Arizona and California. Okay. But all in all, you know, the elites were able to use America as a blank canvas and establish a very wicked empire and call it culture. Okay. Rebellion against the Most High, rebellion against righteousness, and call it a culture. Okay. And there's a punishment for that. It said, go up against it and against the people of Pekah, kill and utterly destroy them, says the Lord, and do everything that I have commanded you. You know, Pekah going into punishment. There's going to be a double rebellion. There's going to be a punishment for this double rebellion. There's going to be a visitation for this double rebellion. It's going to be America, man. You know, and Yahweh Shai going to come get busy on this place too. The nukes, the chariots. Okay. Yahweh Shai and the chariot, they're going to be getting busy in the earth, man. Okay. And they just going to be finalizing this third. They're going to be cleaning this war up. Okay. Yahweh Shai is coming to end the war through power. Okay, by finishing off these heathens, man. Finishing off America. Okay, it says, kill and utterly destroy them, says the Lord, and do everything that I have commanded you. Okay, so it's the Lord that's commanding these nations to do what need to be done. Okay, as pertaining to America, man. Okay, so let's keep reading down, verse 22. The noise of battle is in the land, and the noise, okay, of a great destruction. So when you look out into the planet Earth, you know, all we're seeing is war drums. You know, the sound of battle. Moves being made, chess pieces being moved, people being taken off the board. You know, this is all war preparation. Trade routes being secured. Okay, economic blocks, you know, being locked in before the war. Okay, these are all moves going towards war. Okay, says how the hammer of the whole earth is crushed and broken. How Babylon has become a horror of desolation among the nations. Okay, so how is the hammer, the bully of the earth, is crushed and broken, man? Well, it's going to begin with this Third World War. Okay, and these nations, okay, are going to drag America ass, man. Okay, the Lord set America for complete failure, man. The landmass of America and America military abroad. Okay, the hammer gonna be broken because you hammer, you know, you're able to enforce it. And the reason you're able to, you know, destroy with your economy because of the sword. You know, the power behind the dollar is that sword. Okay, It says, I set a trap for you, and you also were caught, O Babylon, and you did not know it. You have been found and also seized, because you have struggled against the Lord Yahweh Bashemal Shai. Okay? So it's a trap set for America, man. And America's pride is a main part of their trap, because their pride has America reckless, man. Okay? And America gonna keep being reckless and gonna fall right into the trap, man. Okay? They're gonna let the least of the flock, these small hats, gonna drag them into this third world war with Iran. Okay? And then Russia and China gonna intervene. It's gonna go downhill from there for America, man. Abroad and at home. And that's the snare that America's being drugged into, man. Okay? Still trying to project power, all these gimmicks and games. You see, it's going to lead them, okay, to a war that they're not going to fare well. Verse 25, the Lord has opened his armory, okay, beginning with those nukes, all right, because the Lord, as they create the smith that blows the coal. So the Lord put it on the mind of you devils to come up with this powerful weapon, with this highly destructive, potent weaponry for his purpose, man. Okay, and most of those missiles are going to hit America, man. All these missiles from other nations are going to hit America. America going to lick a few off, but what's coming back to America going to be overwhelming. Okay, and it says, and has brought out the nations who unknowingly are the weapons of his indignation, his wrath. And all these nations with nuclear capability are going to shoot at the whore. All right, it's going to even be some surprise nations, man. Okay, that's going to get off on America, man. The Lord's going to allow the earth to get off on America, man, because America has been getting off on the earth. So for a split moment, these nations are going to have their time to just get out on America, man, before Yahweh Shai returns and get out on everybody. Okay, it said, for it is a work of the Lord, it is the work of the Lord of hosts. All right, the Lord power of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. Okay, so let's go here. I want to go down. This verse 29. It said, call together many archers against Babylon, all those who bend the bow, everyone is nuclear capable. Okay, and camp against her on every side. Let not one from their escape repay her according to her actions, just as she have done, do unto her. For if she have been proudly defiant and presumptuous, doing what the hell they wanted to do. And America pushed their do as I will spirit harder than anybody. Their rebellion against the Most High more than anybody. She been presumptuous. Okay, this is a culture that makes up right and wrong as they go. All right, you got a country of people talking about my truth. That's basically them doing what they want and justifying. Okay, they don't care about the standard of the scriptures. Okay, this is a culture. American culture is about people doing what they want to do and establishing, their own righteousness as they go, winging it. Okay, complete rebellion. But it begins with the leadership. Okay, it said, for she has been proudly defiant and presumptuous against the Lord, against the Holy One of Israel. Therefore, her young men will fall in her streets, and her soldiers will be destroyed on that day, says the Lord Yahweh Bashemal Shai. Okay, America set up for failure, man. Internally, externally. Okay, said, behold, I'm against you, O Babylon, you arrogant one, you who are proud and presumption, all right, and presumption personified. Okay, because you go into this word, let's get this word presumptuous. Okay, it says America is being presumptuous, personified. Just to just get this word real quick. Let's get this word presumptuous, because this is one of the offenses, okay, of America. All right, yeah, it said presumptuous. So like it says presumptuous. It says of a person or their behavior failing to observe the limits of what is permitted or appropriate. Failing to observe the limits of what is permitted or appropriate, man. Okay, overconfident, arrogant, brazen. And that's the behavior of American military, American government, American financial system, okay, which is all backed by the elites, okay, and the American people. You see, egotistical, audacious. You see, this is the spirit that's on America, man. There's a judgment for that. And see, they've been arrogant against Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay, Americans operate as if judgment don't exist. Overbold. Okay, he says overbold. All right, and that's the spirit of America. And that's why so much destruction and so much humbling, okay, is coming to America, man. Okay, so let's go back to Jeremiah. Okay, and we see American military just overbold, just brazen, but they're marching to the orders of the elites. You know, and Donald Trump, he's just a logo of pride. Okay. It says, behold, I'm against you, O Babylon, you arrogant one, you who are proud and presumption personified, says the Lord of hosts, for your day has come, the time when I will punish you, man. Okay, America's about to be punished. Okay, America finna go into this third world war. This is a major punishment for America. It's gonna be a punishment for all the heathens. But America gonna get the worst of it. It said the arrogant, proud one will stumble and fall with no one to raise him up, and I will set a fire to his cities, and I will devour all who are around him. Okay, and that's America being nuked, man, being smoked. Okay, and you jump down 35, it says a sword. Matter of fact, read 33 and 34. Yep. It said, thus said the Lord of hosts. And there's another reason. You know, America, you know, is drunken. The scriptures say America has been drunken with the blood, okay, of the saints. You know, just saturated with the blood of the saints. Okay, that's another offense. Because you took, you know, having us in captivity, well, you took it too far. Okay, and that's another major offense of America is treatment of the tribes, man. Okay, we were sitting here for a punishment, but this devil went too far. Okay, and then you enchanted a behavior on Jake. Okay, that made Jake anti-Messiah. You know, as we were sitting here for a punishment, okay, for a correction, this devil, okay, he enforced a culture, okay, and a lifestyle on Jake that made them, all right, more, okay, degenerate. Okay, and there's a punishment for that. You furthered the separation between Israel and the Most High, but there's a remnant, okay, that the Lord allowed to come back. Okay, and that remnant is going to get delivered in the midst of this place being destroyed. And it says, and the children of Judah as well, which are both northern and southern kingdom, and all who took them captive had held them tightly, they have refused to let them go. You know, because in this devil's mind, he's just going to have us, He's just gonna have Israelites in captivity forever. You know, going back to the digital system, this is him doubling down on his rulership and on his control, okay, of the masses, especially the Israelites, man. You know, so this new digital system is him saying he's going to have Israelites in captivity forever. Okay? But this is what he didn't consider. Their Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. He will most certainly plead their case and defend their cause. Yeah, he's going to show up to wage war. That's how he's going to plead our case. Yahushua is going to show up and wage war in this place, man. And righteousness, man. In the midst of the third war, Yahushua is coming to wage a righteous war on all these heathens, man. Beginning with Esau. Okay? And America just going to get dirt put on it, man, because America already is going to be getting his ass handed to him all throughout the earth in this third world war. Okay? So that he may bring rest to their land, but turmoil to the inhabitants of Babylon. A sword against the Chaldeans, said the Lord, and against the inhabitants of Babylon. All right, so the leaders, okay, from the elites down to the inhabitants, man. All right, and the elites gonna be in these bunkers, but they gonna feel that shaking of the missiles, man. Okay, they gonna feel the Lord tearing down their infrastructure, man. Okay, and you inhabitants that's, you know, ground zero, you're just out of there. Okay, if you're in America, if you're not of the elect and you're in America, you're the most hated by the Most High. That's why he got you here. Okay, you American assholes, man. Okay, it says, and against her princes, officials, civic rulers, and against her wise men, astrologers, and religious rulers, a sword against the oracles, the priests, the babbling liars, and they will become fools. A sword against her mighty warriors, and they shall be shattered and destroyed. Okay? So the Lord is finna wage war on this whole Babylonian system, man. Okay? From the politicians to the left-hand priests, okay? To all these, you know, icons of America. The Lord is finna wage a war against this whole Babylonian system. Okay? It says sword against their horses and against their chariots. Yeah, man. These fighter jets, man, America not gonna, it's gonna go bad for America, man. Wherever American military is at, they finna lose. Whether they're home, okay, or abroad, they finna lose, man. And fighter jets coming down. Okay, don't let Venezuela fool you, or you just got helicopters just chilling, okay, shooting at air defense systems. Okay, don't let that Hollywood production fool you, man. When this thing really kicks off, them fighter jets coming down. Okay, and what's left up there at the return of Yahushua gonna be turned to dust. Okay, so the sword is against their horses and against their chariots, against all the foreign troops that are in her midst, and they will become as weak and defenseless as women, a sword against her treasures, and they will be plundered. Okay, it said they will be weak and defenseless as women, man. This is talking about American military, man. Okay, so America, man, this great war machine, you know, that it once was, is going to be embarrassed, man. And it's all the will of the Lord. Okay, this is what the Lord wants to happen in the earth. All right, let's play this. Let's read this, like Isaiah 19, Proverbs 19 and 21. It said, many plans are in a man's mind, but it is the Lord's purpose for him that will stand be carried out. Okay, so regardless of what these Edomites got in mind, you know, how they perceive things are going to play out, it's the Lord's purpose is getting ready to play out. Okay, and within the Lord's purpose, America is embarrassed in this third world war. Okay, so that was the point. Lord will, you brothers and you sisters, edify once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards your brothers, and peace and blessings, salutations, and hopefully Shalom.